everyone. Thanks for stopping by Tail Inferno. Please come in and get comfy because I'm here to grace your screens with the first series wrap-up on this channel. And this series is, of course, the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. This is an 8-part series, which includes a collection of short stories that acts as the prequel. The Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas is a long and brilliant young adult fantasy series that follows the story of Celaena Sardothien, the greatest assassin in Rifthold. And with fantasy series comes names I probably won't pronounce correctly, so please be patient with me if I do get these names wrong. If you haven't seen it, I reviewed each individual story in this series on the Tail Inferno website. We've been on quite the journey to get here, and now it's time to wrap this epic series up. I have tried to limit the spoilers both in this video and in the written version of this wrap-up. However, with so many books and plot twists entangled in this series, I would just say proceed with caution. To be safe, go read the series first before jumping into this. Or if you're not planning on reading it, or you have already read it, stick around and listen to me yap about it. As I mentioned before, you can go check out the written reviews on the website if you want to see more of my thoughts and feelings on each book in the series. But with that all being said and done, let's get on to the series wrap up. I began reading the Throne of Glass series back on the 3rd of January 2024 and finished reading the epic finale on the 9th of May 2024. Yes, you did hear that right. It took me 4 months to read the series, with one book in particular taking a little over a month to get through. But with that being said, this is a truly epic series to read, and the finale itself is totally worth the long journey. So I gave this series an overall rating of 4.25 out of 5. So I'm going to give you a bit of a high-level summary of each book and their individual ratings so you can see why I landed on that overall rating. We began this journey back with The Assassin's Blade, which was also the first book reviewed on the new Tail Inferno. This book is a collection of short stories and acts as the prequel to the Throne of Glass series. It was published after Crown of Midnight, and some people do choose to read it after the second book to be true to the publishing order. It's called something like the Romantic Order or something like that. However, for me, reading The Assassin's Blade first is a must because it sets up the first book and namesake of the series brilliantly. With that in mind, The Assassin's Blade got a rating of 4 out of 5. It tears open the heart and provides a really nice insight into why Celaena is the way that she is. It's also a really easy collection of 5 stories to read. However, some stories don't quite stack up to the others. Then into Throne of Glass. It's the first book of the series and takes place a year after the final novella in The Assassin's Blade. By reading the collection of short stories prior to the Throne of Glass, a lot of Celaena's actions, behaviours, and feelings in this book make a whole lot more sense. And if I'm going to be honest, if it wasn't for The Assassin's Blade, I probably would have rated this book a lot lower because I don't think I would have really gotten into the beginning or into the story as well. I think it would have been really difficult for me. However, with that in mind, the rating I did give it was a strong 4.5 out of 5. It had me hooked right in and was really easy to read. Look, it does have its cringe moments, but it also has some really strong, sweet romantic scenes and some really good action scenes as well. It's a nice mixture of all that fun stuff and not so fun stuff, and is a great way to kick off an epic series. The second installment, Crown of Midnight, was a bit of a letdown for me if I'm going to be honest compared to the first book. It took me a bit of time to get into, and once I was in, there were some slower and very annoying parts to the storyline that had me actually wanting to throw this book across the room if I'm going to be honest. Let's just say, I don't like it when characters who know they should say or do something don't. Particularly when it's clear that if they do, the anger or conflict occurring at the time probably would resolve itself. And there's just a little bit too much of this in this story. It does have some really sweet romance scenes, however, as well as some kick-ass action scenes. So with that in mind, that's a positive. Overall, it did get a solid 3.75 out of 5 from me. Now on to book 3, Heir of Fire, and I am hooked right back in. After the disappointment of Crown of Midnight, I took to Heir of Fire immediately. It's set in a different location with a bunch of new characters, and it feels refreshed and reinvigorating. This book received a really solid 4.5 out of 5 from me. This book is where we see the omniscient narrator truly shine, and it's probably the book I find it works the best compared to the rest of the series. And this is the book where we're introduced to my absolute favourite character in the series, Manon Blackbeak. What pulled the rating back from a full 5 out of 5 was the same issue as Crown of Midnight. People not openly communicating, which is a total pet peeve of mine. And yes, while I get it adds drama and conflict, it just doesn't feel good in this book. Into book 4, Queen of Shadows. This absolutely blew my socks off. Out of all the books in the series, this is probably my favorite. I also really love the front cover of this one for some reason, like the rich red, the cape, this book really elevates the action and feels like it could be the finale in itself with how epic the story is and how it ends. However, if you've read the book and or the series, you'll know there's a whole lot more yet to happen after this one. This book got a strong 4.75 out of 5 from me. The issues I had with the lack of open communication causing conflict still existed, but it didn't annoy me so much. I feel like it was executed a lot better in this book than the previous few. However, what did bring down the rating to pull it from a full 5 out of 5 was just how many perspectives were brought into this book compared to the ones before. I love omniscient narrators, don't get me wrong, and Maas does a brilliant job writing this way. However, when you start getting lots of perspectives, you tend to find that one, two, a few of them sometimes just don't get you. And one particular perspective didn't gel with me fully in this one. With that being said though, this perspective did bring with it some really intense moments that we see from behind enemy lines, so I was able to push through it. But that really did bring it down for me. We then jump right into book 5. Empire of Storms. I gave it a rating of 4.5 out of 5, but the funny thing is, I can't really pick one particular thing I liked about this book, because the whole story is epic to me. However, unfortunately, it does suffer the same too many perspectives feel with me like in Queen of Shadows. The ending though, oh my goodness, Maas knows how to write a really good ending that will have you just wanting to rip the next book out of the shelf to get right into it. And this book, whew, well, let's just say, wow. This book and the next, Tower of Dawn, can be read in tandem. I won't mention why, as that would be quite a spoiler, but they're set on the same timeline. There are guides online available if you do want to try and read between the two. I didn't do this, however, I can completely understand why people do. This then takes us to book 6, Tower of Dawn, which branches off with a few characters, I won't say who, and as I mentioned before, runs along the same timeline as Empire of Storms. It's set in a separate and new location, and the perspectives are limited, so it's actually quite refreshing to read. However, after following the epic finale of Empire of Storms, this book can be quite difficult to get into, so much so this was the one that took me a little over a month to read. Nonetheless, it's still got a really solid rating from me, receiving a 4.5 out of 5, just like Empire of Storms. While it takes a bit to get into it first, it does up the ante with the action as it progresses. And honestly, I'm super happy that this was its own standalone book rather than trying to compress the storyline and perspectives within another, because that would make my head explode. Then we make it to the actual finale, which is Kingdom of Ash. The two storylines of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn converge together as we find ourselves in this epic conclusion. Where we leave off in Empire of Storms makes this book a real joy to finally jump into after the pause we have in Tower of Dawn, which is why I completely understand reading those two books in tandem. After what happens at the end of book 5, you're truly gripped into wondering how these characters are going to get their happy endings, if they do. It's hard to really summarize the epicness of this final book without stepping into major spoiler territory, but let's just say I cried. I'm still crying over some of the scenes, and it was an absolute pleasure to read this whole series just to get to this ending, because this ending, This series is so worth reading just to get to this ending. Maas truly does it brilliantly. With that being said, this epic finale received a 4.75 out of 5 from me. While I keep saying this ending was truly epic, why doesn't it get a full 5 out of 5? You guessed it, the perspectives. This was at a whole other level in this book. However, a 4.75 out of 5 isn't bad. And look, all the ratings I've given all of these books that have had challenges with so many perspectives haven't been bad. They've been really solid and so close to 5 out of 5. The story and the series is just incredible. And while it can be disorientating at times, it doesn't bring down the epicness level. It's truly it. It's astounding. It is such a great series, and this finale is beautiful. So to wrap it up, the Throne of Glass series is a truly epic young adult fantasy series. Having 8 books in total, including the prequel, it's a series that keeps the hype going from beginning to end, with the small blip in book 2, but just push past it. Trust me, it's worth it. Selena, while a naive and a very annoying character at the beginning, really grows a lot throughout this series. The character development we see is astounding, and each of the characters that we're introduced to have some really well-rounded development, from when they're introduced to their final moments. With the exception of probably one character, who is the character I didn't really gel with back in Queen of Shadows. But anyway, they can't all be perfect. I think the series is a true testament to the fantasy genre, particularly for a young adult audience, although I will say there are some scenes in the later books that would probably get like an M15 plus kind of rating in the movie world, potentially higher, so keep that in mind before you start handing out the series to the young ones. Although in reflection, when we say M15 plus, we are talking about the age range above 15, which is young adult, but you get what I mean. So what did you think of the series? Did you enjoy it as much as me? What moments didn't gel with you, or was the whole series a full 5 out of 5 for you from beginning to end? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what you thought about this first series wrap-up on the channel. Moving forward, series wrap-ups will have videos, and individual books, those not in series, will have videos too. However, individual books within series will be kept as written. So if you don't want to miss anything, be sure to follow Tale Inferno on socials, being Facebook and Instagram, and regularly keep an eye on the website. And on that note, make sure you also subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with the latest videos, including story analysis journeys of video games, tips and tricks in the writing and storytelling world, and a whole lot more. You can also ring the bell to stay notified, and if you did like this video, hit the thumbs up button. Thank you for joining me today for the series wrap up. I look forward to continuing igniting the story with you. Until next time, see ya!